Okay, all right. Let me grab this phone. 'Cause we are now live. We are now live here in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, and this is just an opportunity for some real powerful conversation to be done. State of the military child.
Yeah.
Okay, and for everybody that's just joining in, and as you join in, please feel free if you want to call in and ask some questions with the conversation. The number is 703-752-6120. Again, this is not a specific podcast for the People to People podcast. This is representing the state of the military child, and we have. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Dr. Moravia Finney. We're in this is
I'm Adrian Schaefer.
Okay. All right. So, the conversation where we starting off is it's all about the military child. We was talking about this prior to us going live.
Yeah.
So now our agenda is to bring awareness to people what's going on. But I want people to know I'm not interviewing. I'm part of the conversation because I'm a once a Marine, always a Marine. So anything with the military, I'm excited about. So just having this conversation with you is important. So I want you to go ahead and take the lead and just kind of like share what this is all about.
sure. I like to say "oorah" because of myself simplifying also. Former military Marine as well. And this is, as she already introduced herself, as Adrian Schaefer, Colonel retired from the U.S. Army as well. We're here representing the Military Children's Six Foundation,
Okay.
which was headquarters in Washington, D.C. And what we primarily do in regards to, as the Military Children's Six Foundation, is advocacy. Advocacy in education, advocacy in justice, and things in that nature. And our primary focus is and has been the military child. But since then it evolved around the youth, the child in itself, because we understand that just you have military children out there, but you also have youth as well that's non-military. And so our beginnings and our genesis was specifically dealing with the military child in this regards. And when we say the military child, we're also talking about the adult, because sometimes they get mixed up. And when you look in terms of whether or not what a military child is, we generally think that it's someone that's under 18 years old. But then there's a lot of times as military personnel and things in this regards, our parents have served in the military, but we haven't identified as an adult as a military child. I myself never viewed myself as a military child, even though the term is synonymous to military brat. I never viewed myself because my father as well was in the military as well, and he was in the army. But growing up, I never identified with the culture of the military because it was never explained to me in my household. So when I look in terms of what is the state of the military child, I have to look in terms of multiple different variations of that. And what I mean by that is also the culture of the military child, and why is so many military personnel or children haven't yet identified themselves as a military child as an adult. But anyway, when I talk about the state of the military child, I'm looking in terms of education. What is the state of the military child from education perspective? Now we know that there's a big push right now that's going on that's dealing with that's headed by MESAC, which is dealing with purple school designation as far as education is concerned. When we look in terms of public school education, when we look at that, how is the military child being disadvantaged in this regards? And so when I look in terms of purple school designations and looking at that, and I'll explain what that designation means in this regards. And I take issue with, let's go with the District of Columbia. So when we look at the DMV area, you have about over 100 plus schools that's designated as purple school designation, meaning that they are military friendly as regards to the military child. But when I look at the District of Columbia as well, and I'm not hopping on a political thing, but when I look at the District of Columbia, and you say that, hey, is there any schools in the District of Columbia military friendly? And see, there's not one school, there's not one designation in the DC District of Columbia that's military friendly. Now they have a program that's exclusive that they deal with on military installations. But what about the military personnel, individuals who are not living on military bases or military housing, and they are attending public schools in the District of Columbia? So then there's a disadvantage in that. So when I look in terms of the state of the military child, that's just one. I'm looking at from an educational perspective. Do these military children also have all of the same what would I say? Same
Would it be like support
privileges?
system?
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And they don't.
So is it, so just when we talking about that, because my kids were military children, right? Do it be to a point that they get treated different? Do you think?
I think it really depends on where they are. Some schools embrace military children. They make it plain and clear. You know, when a child comes into their school, you know, they highlight the fact that they are supporting the military child, and they want the child to feel a part of that community. And so they have built a support community around that child in that particular school. But what we have found is not every school is supportive of that agenda. And so that is one of the things that we want to bring to the attention of the schools that are out here, appreciating the fact that there are children coming from all different military backgrounds. And as long as they have a connection to the service, that some consideration should be given to that child. And the primary issue when it comes to that has to do with what has the child been exposed to? What are the particular things that the child has had to deal with? And once we get an understanding of that, one, having to go to several schools
Yeah.
within a certain period of time, by the time a child reaches the age of, I think, 12 or 13, depending on what the occupational specialty that that parent has, may require them to go to different military installations. And because of that, that child is having to relocate as much as the parent. But what is happening is while the parent is doing what they need to do to make their rise in ranks, is the child is suffering in the process because they're having to meet new people, they're having to learn new systems, they're having, you know, maybe they're at a different point in their educational levels, where, you know, maybe a child was at one school, 4th grade, this is what they taught. Now they're going into 5th grade. But now they're in a whole different state. And maybe they're coming into this topic at the 5th grade that they've already learned in the 4th grade, or vice versa. And so what we want schools, the administrators and teachers to understand is that the child is coming in with certain issues that they're having to deal with, and how do we build a support community around that child to make sure that they are on the road to academic success, and that's really what it's about.
That's, you know, for just some of the things that you mentioned, you know, I kind of can imagine sometimes how hard it is on the child, and the military parents are not aware that the children are being affected by this, by the process of having to be relocated, make new friends, get into new curriculums and things of that nature. And it can be very stressful for the military child. And I'm only asking this question because it just came to my mind. What is the suicide status on military children? Is it high like regular kids?
You mean,
Do
is
they-
there a
is
large
there-
percentage of suicides
Yeah.
as far as military children?
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, it does occur, but I don't have the numbers. You have the numbers?
No, I don't
Yeah.
have the
But
Well,
the only reason why I asked that is because can you imagine that some of the pressure that they're under, going from different locations? I'm talking not just in the United States, because military children go to other countries.
Exactly, exactly.
You know, the interesting interesting point that you made in this regards, as far as bringing up the question, is what are the cause and effects of suicide as far as children is concerned? And a lot of it has to do with dealing with bullying. And a lot of people don't know that military children often suffer bullying, due to their parents' service in this regards. And that's often overlooked as well, and part of bullying in this regards. Another factor of suicide as well is not being able to get along with, because of the changes and things that take place. And so they experience a phenomenal, a lot of blackballing, blacklisting, name calling, and where they believe within themselves that their parents are actually fighting for the liberty of all folks, but yet, from a child perspective, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They go through a lot of trauma.
That's crazy that a lot of people may not even take the time to even think about that.
Yeah.
The fact that here we are with military children who parents is putting their life on the line for the freedom of the country.
Yeah.
But yet the children are submitted and put in front of all type of bullying and abuse and adjustments. So is this a program that y'all put together? What is it? What's the purpose? What's the purpose of this right now?
As far as the purpose of the organization,
Yeah.
so you heard him speak a bit about advocacy, but we are also about helping to develop the child. And so one of those ways that we are doing that is through leadership development. And we actually have an event that's coming up on the 17th of August, and
Okay.
it's a military child, we're calling it the Military Children's Leadership Development and Financial Reality Fair. And this is an event that is open to the public. It's open for children from the ages of 14 to 26. That's really our target audience, because we want to either put children in a position where we're helping them to get ahead or getting on track. When I talk about getting ahead, when we're thinking about 14 to about the age of 18, that's really kind of that formative time in their lives where they're really now just beginning to discover what is it that I want to do. And often is, how do I get there? Who's doing this? And so a part of this event will allow for children to kind of peek and peer into the lives of individuals who may be doing the very thing that they see themselves doing one day. So helping to kind of get ahead. Then we've got the ones who've gotten started from 21, 22 up to 26. They've gotten started, but maybe they've fallen off along the way. Or they're a bit disillusioned, or, they may want to go a different direction. And so this also gives them the opportunity to see, okay, well, if this is really what I want to do, how far can this take me? And so they'll have an opportunity to speak with folks that are coming in from various industries. So we're having national security, lawyers, folks from the financial industries, just to kind of name a few. And they will have an opportunity to have a workshop. and they will sit down and they'll have an opportunity to speak with the individual. The person will kind of tell you a little bit about their background, who they are, what they do, how did they get to where they got to, and then kind of show you what it is that they do.
Mhm.
And then that gives them an idea if this is something that they find themselves wanting to do. And then the second aspect of that is with the financial reality has to do with stewardship. Oftentimes I'm sitting down and I'm having a conversation, and it's twofold. One is when I was coming up, we never had an opportunity to do anything like this. One, to talk to someone who is working in a field that I would like to consider. And two, how do I manage my money? I understand, my parents may say, get a job, do this, do that. But when I get a job, how am I responsible with the monies that I am given? And so we talk about stewardship. And it's about an opportunity to invest in yourself. Invest in your career and invest in yourself on a financial front. And it's all about being successful in life. And so we want to help children get to that point where they can get on the right track and then accept.
So when we're talking about the state of the military child, is that something that, is kind of swept up under the rug? Are we in a position where we saying that the military children are not really being supported, and that's why you have the program to bring that to the forefront?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that they are not being supported, but what we have found is that there are, parents have their track, and they're doing what they need to do to rise in the ranks. And what may happen is sometimes in their efforts to get to a certain position in life, the child may not necessarily be getting the attention that they need. So it's not necessarily anything about neglect or anything of that nature. It is realizing that parent just can't be all.
Mm-hmm.
Realize the army, be all you can be in the army.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be all you can be in the army and serving your country, but sometimes some things fall away. And it's in that falling away, we want to catch that child and help to come alongside that parent and help them put their child on a right path and and to succeed.
I can only imagine sometimes the military child being left to fend for themselves.
And Rodney, we can speak all day long about the pleasantness or the pleasantry. And I'd like to say that with what Colonel Schaefer just got finished saying, I would say is in the middle portion trying to move forward to outcomes,
Mm-hmm.
For the military child, to put them in a better position
Right.
from which they answer. But a lot of times what goes when I look in terms of the state of the military child, I gotta look at it from a mental health perspective.
Right. Yeah.
I need to be able to deal with them from this perspective of the things of which they're going for, so that they can be more prepared to take on endeavors or to start deciding how their career and so forth on is going to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can go ahead and still be trapped in my body and go right here and think that this is an out, and I'm taking these outs, but I still have not dealt with the underlying issues, the invisible syndromes. And so when I look at it, it's not all bad and it's not all good. But when I'm speaking about the Military Children 6 Foundation, I'm not talking about the events that happens to try to put them in a better position from a career-wise, to a development-wise,
Mm-hmm.
to becoming more holistic, but dealing with one segment or one portion of military children, but also children in itself. When you look in terms of advocacy, what is it that the Military Children's 6 advocate for on behalf? The specialties and things in this regards. One is dealing with child neglect, sexual assault, child abuse, all these other different things that goes on that are what I would like to say are silent voices. You know what I'm saying? Crying in this regards, because yes, just like in society in itself, it happens within the military as well. And dealing with the children to help them overcome certain stigmas of which they're going through, and they don't have an outlet to speak with. And so that child needs someone to advocate for them and on behalf of them. The model of the Military Children's 6 Foundation is simply back to back in this regards. We got your 6. Because, you know, while the parent or parents are out fighting a war, then what's taking place with that military child stateside or home side, different things happen. I'm not talking about all of it's bad, because there's some very good things that is happening with the military child. But when we begin to talk about those particular issues, it's going on. And it's not often spoke about, because that child or the parent or the culture says that be a man. You don't have to speak, suck it up or take it, and et cetera, et cetera. And they feel that they have no one that they can come to, no one organization that will fight alongside them as well. Because now when you take a child that has been sexually abused, or you take a child that has been abused and whatever, child neglect or whatever the case is, you take that, and this parent is out here fighting a war or a conflict and saying that why isn't my child being taken care or represented properly when I'm fighting for the liberty of my country? And so when you look at these things and you say, okay, what was the primary reasoning for establishing the Military Children's 6 Foundation? This is the executive director of it. And when you say, well, what is it? Because I can't speak for her, but I can speak about her testimony,
right,
and about what it is that you stand for. So if you fought for over 2 decades plus, fighting on behalf of military children, because you see the things that are happening to them, and your heart is pouring out towards them, and God is telling you and asking you, what is it that you want to do about that? And so one of the reasons for advocacy in this regards is to defend and come alongside that child, not to go against the parent, but to be an asset in helping that child overcome some of the psychological effects that is happening with them. And then in some cases that, hey, look, I remember one time, you're going to get the pleasant conversation with Colonel Schaefer. You're going to get the nitty gritty from me in this regard. From a criminal perspective in this regards, when you find that the military child somehow are getting into have gotten into a situation with the law. And let's face it, sometimes there's, depending on your rank, instruction, and so forth on, you can't afford an attorney in this regards. Colonel Schaefer has been a litigator for decades. Let's put it like that. I'm not going to tell her story. If she decides that she wants to tell it, she can tell it in this regards. But when we look at, in terms of when I look at what it is that she's doing in this regards, I recall that one of the stories that a young man by the name of Jacob that came to her, and he was facing a criminal situation in this regards, and his parents couldn't really afford to get an attorney, and so she's taken on that case to find litigation so that this military child can be adequately represented. You know what I'm saying? So when you look in terms of what it is, it's not, when we talk about getting in the foxholes, in the trenches and so forth on, I've seen Colonel Schaefer spend hours, over 100+ hours, pro bono, doing research and so forth on, and these connecting the dots and things in this regards to try to pull out every opportunity there is that she has within her arsenal to try to support that. I've seen when you speaking that, when we look in terms of not just the military child, we also look at the military man or woman. I've seen her represent from a prono perspective, a particular colonel, because he had a situation in his life that needed someone who understood what it was that, so she spent over 40, 50, 60 plus hours assisting him. So when it comes to advocacy, let me say this. She's advocated on behalf and stood aside Gold Star wise. Why? Because if it affects the parent, it's going to trickle down and affect the child in this regards. So she stands alongside them in this regards. She stands alongside with the PACT Act in this regards. Because again, if it's affecting the military parent, it affects the military child. And then it affects children as well across the board. So when we look into the state of the military child, we have to look at it from a holistic perspective, all the way around, 360. And we have to be able to stand in that gap and say, what does this parent need so that this child can benefit? Or what does this child need so that the parent can benefit? And so you can't bring just the child without bringing the parent or the guardian. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so if in you yourself as a military person, and I'm not going to hold up too much longer, but you yourself as a military vet, as a veteran in this regards, and you have children, there are times perhaps possibly that you might have needed assistance or organization that deals with military children that's not on installations. I know myself, sometimes I didn't really trust the military handling my case from a civilian perspective. I'd much rather went to a civilian doctor than I had a military doctor. Mm-hmm. So these things happen even from a justice perspective, even from a educational perspective, even from an advocacy perspective. You wanted to be able to give your child the necessary resources to help you along as a military active duty person as well as a vet. But your children in this regards don't or didn't understand the value of the culture of military. So when you and I as military, we say simplify, what we mean is always faithful mean your cause, brother, is going to be my cause.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. What's your cause? What is your problem? What is your issue? And so we bring that into the Military Children's 6 Foundation because one of the things that Colonel Schaefer said was that connecting the dots, making sure that that military child have a connectivity to the culture in this regards. The culture, because if you don't understand the culture, you can't begin to understand what the military child is really going through. So we have to bring about education. And by bringing about education, you have to put the child or put the resources necessary out there. But we all can't do this from a silo perspective. We have organizations they're doing the individual things. But as a military, we know that mobilization can happen as fast. We're supporting one another in this regard. So I don't need to jump in your lane because this is your specialty. But if you need the services for which we offer in this regards, then let's come together.
Yeah.
You say, and scripturally says, come together, and let us come together and reason. Let us reason together, says the Lord. So let me reason with you and say, hey, I understand what it is that your population, your consumers are going through. And you don't have that ability to deal with that matter, but we have that ability. So let us come alongside you and work with you and not doing this thing independently. Right. With so many organizations that are, when we say even child serving organizations, youth serving organizations, and in this regard, we want to say stay silo. So, you know, and you know why this thing is so dear to me? Let me tell you why, and I'll turn it back over to you, Colonel Schaefer, in a minute. You know why this thing is so dear to me? Because when I've seen the personal sacrifices, we've been in existence since 2019. Mm-hmm. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 4 years plus. I've seen, from a financial perspective, paying over $5,000 a month, plus other different things, out of the personal pocket of Colonel Schaefer. When you look in terms of the service, you and this is a thing that all organizations are going through in this regards. Silos. You know what I'm saying? You do the math. And if you look in terms of what was donated, it's probably, I would say, less than $1,000. No, I'm sorry, I gotta take that back. I'm gonna go underneath for $2,000. But she has not asked a dime for any one service. And I can tell you right now, we have butted some heads. Because you can see when people just want to, if you spending over 50 and 60 hours on a particular case on your behalf, why can't you just give them $5 or $10?
And that is so important. I really, it's really funny. On many cases, we have to get these different programs to come up because people have a tendency to ignore things. A lot of us don't want to deal with the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Elephant is right there, and we use that terminology because the elephant is so big. But when you look around, people, that's not that important, or this is not what's going on, or here's just another program that's coming up, But one of the things that's very profound, and that is when we bring things to the forefront, that people can go back and do some investigation and realize some of these things have been ignored, swept up under the rug. And then when we have individuals like yourself come up with these programs, they look at you like you're crazy. Because they be like, okay, all of a sudden you got this new program. No. It's not really new. It's really, we bringing it and dealing with the elephant in the room. Everybody's seen it. It's been going on for years. How long we've had the military. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This ain't nothing that's just popping up.
Mm-hmm.
And as you was talking about, this is one of the things that I think that is very important for us to come to the realization. As we know, nothing is for free. Nothing. I don't care whether you get compensated by a hug or a biscuit or a dollar bill. It's a return. And that's by the way God designed it.
Yeah.
This is not, if you got one man growing corn and another man growing cabbage, and another one making cornbread, in order for you to make the meal, you got to come together.
Mm-hmm.
But for the man to grow the corn, he needs certain things to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it costs him
Mm-hmm.
time,
Mm-hmm.
his skills,
Mm-hmm.
his dedication.
Mm-hmm.
And here, the man that might be doing the lettuce might not have to work as hard. So he'll look and say, well, yo, I want some of your corn.
Yeah.
And say, yo, man, you grow more corn than I do.
Yeah.
So why don't you just give me some?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Oh, just give me some corn.
Yeah.
Not saying that I'm going to give you some lettuce.
Mm-hmm.
Or not saying that it doesn't take that much for me to grow the lettuce.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to do so much to get the corn.
Put that work in.
You got to put the work in.
Yeah. Plow the land.
So when it really comes down to it, for many people who probably will watch this and see it down the line, understand that when things like this come up, it's not nothing new. It's just dealing with the elephant in the room. And I think that it's powerful that you are addressing this, and being that you served in the military and you've seen it and experienced it and had the opportunity. It's almost like you don't know what some people don't know what Kool-Aid tastes like. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Some people don't know. They don't know that was a fast way for people to survive back in the day when they didn't have enough money to get juice.
Yeah.
You know, and I say that to say, when you tell them about it, they be looking at you like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But it was something that's been around. It still is.
Yeah.
It's put to the side, many people don't talk about, but it exists.
Yeah. Rodney, man, I'm gonna get personal. And since we're on that subject, what ticks me is not that we don't love what it is that we do. And it's more of a assignment, a mandate. What God does is He prepares us all of our life to take on a particular assignment. And it has nothing to do with talent. It has everything to do with the ability, which one would say anointing, gifted to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And in that, you know how we used to say, man, you get that cold in the bones. It's different. When you know you got cold in the bones, you know it's a different type of cold.
Yeah.
That's when I look in terms of the mission, the sacrifices. No, it's not saying, man, it's not saying that you owe us anything, because it's not doing it for you, because it is an assignment from God.
Mm.
And one of the things that I asked her in the beginning, the genesis of it is, why do you want to do this? And I asked her, you know, did God tell you to do that? Because that's important. Because you understand the trajectory on the path and what sacrifices you're willing to make. So in saying that, one may say that, man, look, check this out. I didn't ask you to do this. Yeah, you're right about that. But God placed it on my heart to do this for those who can't represent themselves.
How about that?
Who can't speak up for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I look at to the point of you have practically annihilated your life savings for the cause, for your child. I'm not asking you for nothing. And that's one of the things that disturbs me. That one of the things that disturbs me about Colonel Schaefer is she will not ask for 1 quarter. Not one. Now, I'm the type of person like, I'm going to ask you. Because I understand what it is that what requires. But when I see that, and you've expended your life savings to try to help and benefit, sometimes it's get personal for me.
And you know, I can identify with her in.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't be talking to her like she's not here.
No.
Okay.
No, I can identify with her in areas. Sometimes you're so passionate about helping people that it's not about the dollar bill.
Yeah.
But I have to go back to the point where we was talking about the corn and the cabbage. You can't grow the corn without the financial support.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have to get past the point of ignoring the elephant in the room. It does not just fall down in the ground and start to grow. You got to treat it. You got to get the chemicals. You got to get the right soil. It costs. And it's not just the product, but it's the time,
Oh,
which is more valuable than anything, because time doesn't wait for anyone.
yeah.
And time is not promised to anyone either.
Yeah.
See, we're not promised tomorrow.
Yeah.
When many times we take it for granted.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're having that conversation, because it's also something that we all got to be mindful of. We talking military, we talking civilian, we talking all. What you're doing and giving people an opportunity, people need to want to come in and say, hey, what can I do to help? What can I do financially? Because we know it costs. And when you give these services, many times, I'm going to say something, I hope I don't get in trouble. Because when I say this, the people going to know. But, so when I say this to my neighbors, I don't want you to be mad at me, but I want to say this. But I'm making, we keeping it real, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so some time ago, somebody stole my lawnmower, right? And when they stole my lawnmower, I had to go to my neighbor and ask, could I use the lawnmower to cut the grass, because my grass was growing rapidly wasn't in a position to go get a lawnmower right then. And in the neighborhood, everybody's yard is looking good. So when I went to go buy the lawnmower, yeah, I just borrow it, but they don't cut my grass, but I just borrow theirs, right? So that was okay, cause we do little things to help each other. So I'm not really looking to think that I gotta do other than make sure I keep gas in it, right? Well, down the line, their lawnmower broke. And the individual is not capable of cutting his own grass. So I have to cut it, right? Shouldn't I look to be compensated? It takes me almost 2 hours. But why do I feel bad? Why do I feel bad when after I do it, I'm burnt out. Why do I feel bad? I shouldn't. And they pay me. They do. So don't get me wrong. I just wanted to make that clear about what you was talking about. When you putting this work in, why shouldn't you get paid? Why shouldn't people donate? Why shouldn't people come and say, hey, because it's not one person that's going through this. We talking a mass of individuals. How big is the military? How many military children are suffering? How much time does it take for you to get in to bring this to their attention and say, hey, it's not 20 kids, we're talking 20,000.
Yeah.
It'd be okay if it was just 1 or 2 or 3, right?
Yeah.
We're talking thousands on a level that's important. And for the program that y'all put together, it is imperative people take it serious.
You know, she has a program underneath of the Military Children's 6 Leadership Development Academy, right? Check this out. There's over 100 courses, curriculums that's already been developed. And she offers those to organizations like conflict of interest, entrepreneurship, culture, sensitivity trainings, different various trainings. Give it to her. She give it to you for free. I can't override what it is that she says that she wants to do. But this is the type of level of commitment that she says that, hey, I want, it's the benefit for the children. I'm gonna stop right there and let you have something.
Yeah, because we gonna be running out of time shortly. But what I would like to suggest, just a suggestion, as you know, we network together, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got to figure out this. I would love to get a little more involved and get more information on this program. Let us start to get to a point where we actually can have people come in and we talk to them. We got so many military people who do not have an avenue of getting information or speaking in PC, and we even talk to the military children, so we should try to really move this forward, make this something. I met y'all while y'all was doing a service.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I met you.
Yeah, at the Pentagon City Mall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the blessing of it is that not only that I get some information, but now I got some individuals who have knowledge on things that I've had lack of information. I've met you two that in areas are able to help me. And in return, I'm glad you said that, and I want to make sure that as I reach out, that you are compensated for your time, just like I would want to be if I was shooting pictures for you, if I was cutting the grass for you. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not about. It's really not about being greedy. It's about being respectful. It's about acknowledging what you're doing. How many years you doing in the military?
Over 30 years.
Okay, that alone is worthy of us coming to and saying thank you for your service. Thank you for your dedication. And then think about, here you done already did 30 years in the uniform. Now you retired out of the uniform and still serving speaks volume.
She's litigated too. How long you practice law?
Well, I've been a lawyer over 30 years as well.
Oh my God, man. I honestly,
Good to be that young, don't you?
I know.
I had a lot of
That's what I was saying. I mean, we talking years, and I'm over here looking at you. If you dress a certain way, you probably gonna get carded a lot. So they, you can be like, okay, you ain't been no 30 years.
Mm.
They won't believe that. But as we know, not being funny, but black don't crack. So we already know.
Or split.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We just have that blessing. But again, I'm excited about what you're doing. I'm excited about what we want. God has a way of making things happen. He has a way of bringing things to the forefront. You got work to do. August 17th.
August 17th from 9 to 5 at the Harborside Hotel, Oxon Hill, Maryland. The Military Children's Leadership Development and Financial Reality Fair. If you want more information, you can go to two places. Go to www.militarychildren6 spelled out foundation.org or www.financialleadershiprealityfair.com.
And I just want to let people know here at the studio, this is not something that we put together through people to people. This was a conversation that we had that we just wanted to share, and we decided to go live, and that's again you giving, which is powerful.
Yes.
So for everyone that's going to see this, August 17th over at the Harbor.
Harborside Hotel.
Harborside Hotel, which is actually right there, right off of 495, easy access. Come out anytime, especially for veterans, who have children, and you want to come in and you want to be able to get some information. You definitely want to be there. But what I would want to do is, and this is what I forgot they call it, you putting a plug in or whatever. We have been trying to reformulate relationships. Y'all been coming to the networking events. We need to speak more about it, what you're doing. We need to have a meeting when we get a chance to see how we can be a force together to say, hey, this is what's going on. I'm as a military individual, once you go military, you can't get military out you. I'm telling you. If you went through boot camp, I'm sorry, it's in you. They take you to levels that you never thought that you would go. I've done things that I was like, there's no way that I would have done this if I had not had that experience. But where are we now? We're in a position where we're able to share the corn and the cabbage and the cornbread. And we're able to come over and say, look, what do you need? So if somebody wanted to donate to this project right now financially, how would they go about it?
Go to www.financialleadershiprealityfair.com.
And that way then, cause I mean, ain't no telling who will see this. They may say, look, I know this is a long time coming. We dealing with the elephant in the room. Let's get the elephant out the room and put it in a basket where it can actually move around.
In closing, and more importantly, what we want you to do, you'll be able to have access to the Financial Reality Fair. This isn't about the Financial Reality Fair, that's just an aspect of it. What it's really about is the Military Children 6 Foundation.
Oh, okay.
.org, because you'll find out all of the information that's there. in this regards. And what we want to convey to the audience is that if you, as a military child or parent, have a situation where you need an advocate, or whether or not you need some type of resources and things in this regards, to look us up, to contact us. You can contact the Military Children 6 Foundation, again, by www.militarychildren6foundation.org, or give a call at 202-854-0062. And you can rest assured that if you have a situation, we will try our best to connect you with the resources that's out there for you. And that's because we network with other organizations, veteran service organizations, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations. So we have a network that we have cast and try our best to get you the resources, from housings to upgrades, discharge upgrades, and things in this regards. But more importantly, education, advocacy, and leadership development training for not just the military child, but for children across the board as well.
I'm again, because nobody will understand how this came about.
Yeah.
Moravian is a gentleman who he has this way of reaching out, and this is just in the short period that I've known you, and then meeting your wife, that I realized that y'all are givers on a regular basis. When y'all was at the mall doing the program at that time, you was representing the military at a level that was profound, and a lot of us don't really take advantage of it. I want to personally say thank you, because I was able to approach y'all, and me being a military, I'm proud. I am so proud of being a Marine. I can't, nobody don't know what that means to me, except another individual who wore the American military uniform. It's something when we put it on. It's not something that's given to you. We earn it. And when you do 30 years, oh my goodness, that's a level of some real powerful dedication. I'm talking the mornings that you gotta get up, the long hours, the mental abuse that you receive on different levels.
And a black female.
Oh,
And started from E1.
that's powerful. Excuse me.
Started from what, a private?
That's I mean that in yeah, we got about 10 more minutes. So I want people to understand how this came about again, because we didn't advertise. We were just having a conversation, but we thought it was important for us to talk about. So on August 17th at the Harbor Side, you need to come over there and meet both these individuals. Come over and find out what's going on. What's going to happen is, already, just from this conversation, I've got some ideas that we should be talking about later on. The People to People podcast will be going back into full function in September, but we need to talk and see how we're going to collaborate on being able to have an ongoing process where people are going to be able to understand what you're providing, what services they can get, how they'll be able to come. We have facility here that we can actually utilize, rooms and things of that nature, to get people to come out and get information. We can do courses or whatever. You say you have how many courses that you can?
Over 100.
Lots.
So that means that now all it is that we need to start to market and let people know that it's available. And I'm gonna say this is not, when we talk, this is another part of the elephant in the room that people don't wanna address. In this country, a lot of people identified at the level that they should have been. You started as an E1. 30 years. Not talking about you being just a female. A black female. Sometimes we don't want to deal with the truth, but we know that wasn't easy. I can't even imagine the times that you was sitting in an office, somebody looking down on you, or trying to look at you from a female perspective only.
Not accept authority.
Yeah. Those things, I can't wait till we gonna have us a powerful interview. Oh, now I'm telling y'all, people, we in the process of reformulating a lot of things, but y'all gonna be seeing this come. We're gonna have a real serious dialogue about this. I wanna address that. That's gonna be so profound for the program when which y'all started, how you guys started, why, because it's a reason behind that. That's not, y'all not doing this because you ain't got nothing else to do. This is a purpose, and there's a deeper reason in that we need to really bring out. But what we want to do is we want to see y'all come out on the 17th. We want to see y'all come out and support the project, and to see that it's there for individuals.
Man, I'll let you close, but I'd like to disclose one other thing as a black female to our young girls, women of color. We're not a prejudiced organization, obviously, but when I look at Colonel Schaefer and look at all of her achievements of what it is that she done and why she formulated the Military Children's 6 Foundation, is for that young girls can see and look at models in our communities that, hey, you can do this as well. Mm-hmm. And that's the message that she want to bring to black and brown and also of other different hues, that you can do it no matter what in this time of age. And the thing that I was going to say is, I know we short on time, but if I want to look at the one of the first blacks who obtained the rank that she has in her particular home state, I got to look at legacy. I got to look at history. When I look at that you're admitted to the DC bar, the Illinois bar, the Missouri bar, I got to take, when you're admitted to the Supreme Court to preach, not preach, but to, well, I'm prophesizing. Admitted to the Supreme Court to practice in this regards, and other different achievements in an age of it's a man's world, that you see women are flourishing and coming from where they were to bring them to share and show that, hey, that little brown girl or black girl or whatever the case is, you can achieve today with good mentorships, good examples and things. And the most number one thing about all of this that I'm proud of is that she's a lover of God.
Well, I'm going to also, and not make an excuse. One thing that I really don't like, and I don't know why sometimes when we talk, it's always we got to be tiptoeing around the fact that you're a black female and that it wasn't easy for you. Yeah. We can't tiptoe around that. I'm 63 years old. In 1968, they killed Martin Luther King. In 1968 is when they started integrating schools. In 1967, I was going to an all-black school. In 1966, I didn't hardly even see white people. If I did, I saw them on television, and I didn't see many black people on television of standard that were doing things. I saw Elvis Presley singing, and I could mimic Elvis easily. But come to find out, at some point in his history, he didn't care too much for black people, and it was said publicly. And the thing that gets me is that a lot of times when we're addressing these things, that we have a tendency to be feeling like we can't speak proudly about what we accomplished. I'm proud of you. I am so proud of you as a black woman, that you was able to maintain and get to this point. That is nothing to take lightly, and we should not have to tiptoe around it to say it. We should not be in a position where we can't be upfront and say, look, the reason why you are advocate for these military children because you had the opportunity to represent them or see them at a different level. So I didn't say that to offend anybody. I'm just the type person too. Sometimes I ain't biting my tongue when it need to be said. It's gonna be said.
Yes, sir.
And so I appreciate you. So you got the last words. Tell them, again, what, how to get in touch with you, why you're doing this, and why it's so important.
Well, I wanna make sure that I thank People to People for agreeing to have us on today, just to sit down and have a conversation, and to really get an understanding as to why we have an organization like this. Looked out over the landscape of organizations that are out there supporting military children, and none could we find that would do the very thing that we feel like we have been called to do. And so I'm reminded of a passage which is really kind of our organization's motto, and it says, "Let thy work appear unto thy servant, and thy glory unto their children." And so the servant in this particular case is that we're looking at all of the military members who have sacrificed at one time or another. And we also think about the families who have sacrificed along with them. And then, making sure that we focus our efforts and attention on the children. So bringing that glory into the children. We want to make sure that we are paying homage to that service member and for the sacrifice that they have given, some with life, some with limb, some with injuries that you'll never be able to see, but they're there, they're visible. And for some that may have never been actually injured per se, but the fact that they were willing to risk it all to save us all. And so it's that community that we want to be there to support. And so as I look over my years of service and the various things that I got to do, I kept asking myself, at the time that I was experiencing the things and saying, okay, God, why did you put me here? Why is it that you put me in this position to do this very thing? I did not realize that there would come a time, well, it's for such a time as this. And that time being that there are needs that kids out there, so not just the military child, but kids in general, need to have organizations that are out there who are willing to put it on the line to see them succeed, because they're the next generation. We've had our time. We now want to put our children in the best light possible to succeed, because they're the ones who's going to be taking it over for us. And don't you want to make sure that you're doing your best, that if they're going to be taking over something and they're going to be carrying it forward, that they know what to do, and hopefully can do it a little bit better than what we did it.
Yes.
And so we have that obligation. And so I want to make sure that I at least do my part. But we realize that our children sometimes are coming from brokenness, broken backgrounds. They find themselves in certain situations where it was beyond their control. And so we want to put them in a position where we can make them whole so they can then go and succeed. We don't want them to be held down by the baggage of life. We don't want them to be chained to a past that, unfortunately, sometimes that history, it's that history that's being passed along that they literally need to unchain themselves from. Mm-hmm. And we want to present them with a better light. Not what someone told you you were going to be, but what you see yourself being. And then we want to put the picture in front of you, what it could look like. And then put you on the path to succeed. So not only are we going to allow you to see what it looks like, but we're going to help you accomplish it. so that when the time comes for you to do your thing, for you to live your life, and hopefully it's a passion, that you will succeed. And that you'll have an organization that you can look at. You can look over your shoulder and say, they got me there. And then there's still an obligation to continue to serve, and that they will be the next to pull up the next generation and bring them forward until we are no more. That is our job. That's why I serve.
Y'all heard it. Y'all heard it. Well, I wanted to say from the horse's mouth, but you know, it's just a saying. Y'all heard it live. Listen, August 17th, y'all want to go over to the harbor side. You'll be able to get more information. Let me say this in closing. Here we are. Here at the People to People podcast, it's all about having the opportunity to get information out. Me and Moravian, we talk about God on the level of spiritual growth and things of that nature, but we talk about everything. And this is a profound opportunity for me to see another direction that the People to People podcast is going to be going. This wasn't planned. We decided to do this just because we had the opportunity to fellowship with each other. So we decided to go live. So we know we didn't do flyers and promotion and things of that nature. Sometimes we say we let go and let God.
Yeah.
That's all we do. And so we decided, okay, let's do this, and we got in and we having a good conversation. And whoever supposed to see it will see it, and whoever supposed to share it will do that as well. We'll actually go to YouTube, subscribe, hit like. Remember giving the information for you to be able to get more information about the state of military children. Just a mental area where kids are struggling and sometimes been forgotten. And we can't let that happen. We can't let the opportunity of individuals who serve the country and still serving go unnoticed. And again, I say thank you so much, and I appreciate you sharing and doing what you do. And that's the end of this process right here. Again, this is probably the first time y'all saw him, but it ain't the last. I promise you that. We got a lot going on. We're gonna be talking. We got some work to do, and so I want to get involved. I'm making that publicly. I'm saying it publicly as a commitment to figure out what we do, what segment we're gonna do. If we're gonna have it where I got an idea about something that we're gonna talk to off air that I think that would be really powerful. I think that we could be able to really get to a point where the elephant is going to be set free. We're going to take the chain off of them and put them back out there where it's supposed to do what it's supposed to do. God bless you. I send peace and blessings to you. Thank y'all so much for tuning in.